National Youth Administration by Rashmika Veturi. Why was the National Youth Administration created? So, following the Great Depression, youth unemployment was at 30%, and young people around America found themselves unable to afford the minor cost of a high school education. Eleanor Roosevelt quoted, "I live in real terror when I think we may be losing this generation," unquote. What was the purpose of this administration? The NYA worked to specifically address the problems of unemployment and access to education among Americans as a whole, including African Americans. And in this picture, you can see that workers are attending a class in auto mechanics organized by the National Youth Administration. And this National Youth Administration provided new and unique opportunities to these Americans who would otherwise not have them. The goals of this program, well, there were two goals of this program. Number one was to prevent young people who are already enrolled in school from dropping out due to financial hardships, and this was done through money. And the second goal was to provide youth with vocational skills for success despite economic hardships. And you can see these individuals studying because of funding from the NYA. Who was this program intended to help? Well, this program was intended to give 4.5 million of the young people aged from 16 to 25 in the United States, men and women included. And at the right here, you can see that this is a job advertisement about the National Youth Administration and its effectiveness. So was this a part of the relief, recovery, or reform of Roosevelt's New Deal? This was a part of relief for the youth in America because it relieved these people of the stress of education and the economic hardships and gave them the opportunity to pursue what they wanted. How did this program change society? So the National Youth Administration was created under the Emergency Relief Act of 1935 and provided more than 4.5 million jobs for young people. This essentially, right before this, as we learned in the last unit, it was about America was in a time of known as the Great Depression, and Roosevelt essentially came in and helped lift society from this Great Depression with projects for out-of-school youth and just funding and allowing the American youth to really prosper. Some short-term changes include, number one, improving the standard of living because there's increased jobs for the youth, which meant there was more money in the economy and more productiveness as opposed to the Great Depression where everyone essentially sat around, did nothing, and had no opportunities to succeed. And now another short-term change is that now that they did have the opportunity to succeed, the youth had a hope for a greater future. Although this program was extremely effective, there were some criticisms of this program. Now, the first criticism was that it caused slight dependence on the government, and it therefore was hard to sustain this kind of job and this kind of project. And the second criticism was obviously it was very, very expensive because both goals associated with the NYA had to do with utilizing government resources and government resources as in money to push this project. Was the NYA successful overall? Yes, it was very successful at its purpose to start up and give the youth real opportunity. And we can see pictured here on the right that these are some women at a hairdresser salon living their life because they had their job and they were given this opportunity by the NYA. Does the NYA exist today? Well, in 1939, unemployment was no longer a huge problem relative to the Great Depression, and in 1943, the NYA started to encourage the youth to train for jobs in war-related industries because a war was coming up. And then this NYA does not exist today for the main reason that the war that happened in 1943 essentially took up all of the money, and there were a lot of budget cuts, and this forced the abolishment of the National Youth Administration. So here is a video. It's the NYA. It's 2 minutes long.
NYA was created on June 26, 1935, and it operated for 8 years. It focused on providing work and education for Americans ages 16 through 25. The founders of the NYA were Franklin D. Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt. The NYA helped over 4.5 million people.
The NYA was a success because it helped fill the job openings and improve the economy with working people.
NYA affected people that could not afford getting enough education to fulfill job openings and the people that needed training for certain jobs. It also affected families who could not give their children money to get an education.
The NYA was a success because it helped fill job openings and complete the economy with working people.
Something that was unfamiliar about the NYA was it helped young women and that it was unusual in its time.
The NYA was implemented by Franklin D. Roosevelt during his first term of presidency. It was part of the New Deal agency. The NYA was not very particular in race and gender. Thanks to Mary McLeod Bethune, blacks had a fair share to all of the National Youth Administration's funds.
Harry L. Hopkins from the WPA, also known as the Works Progress Administration, is also a part of the establishment of the National Youth Administration. NYA activities had two directions: the Student Work Program for youth in school, elementary to graduate, and out-of-school employment for the needy unemployed between ages 16 and 24. This group firmly believes the NYA was an extreme success because it gave work to 2.8 million young people who were on the rate in 1935.
Alrighty, and after that, this is my works cited. And that's it for today's presentation. Thank you.